People just aren't feeling that lucky right now. They're not playing the lottery, and that matters. Why? Well, in Oregon, that money goes to fund tons of important stuff that you might not even know about. And remember how we told you that crime is down because of the stay-at-home order? Well, apparently some people in Portland didn't get our memo because shootings are way up once again. And have you been to the movies recently? Yeah, me neither. And because of that, a tiny flick in a tiny town in Oregon just shot to #1 in the entire country. Here's the story.
It's Friday, I'm in love. I'm Dan Haggerty. Hi, I'm in a suit as well because I don't do casual Fridays. I prefer fancy Friday. I like to head into the weekend like a gentleman. So grab your smoking jackets and pop on your pumps. It's time for the story. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. Ask your questions, send your comments, email, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Just remember, use the hashtag #HeyDan. All right, let's get right into it tonight with our big story and talk about gambling. You know, they say the house always wins, but the Oregon lottery is losing big time. The coronavirus has forced the state lottery to shut down those video lottery machines in the bars and restaurants. And as Kyla Boshi found out, those little machines have a big impact on the state's money.
This is Powerball.
The lottery likes to celebrate big wins, but for the first time, maybe ever, the Oregon lottery is losing millions of dollars in revenue. The state shut down all video lottery terminals in mid-March, following Governor Kate Brown's order that bars and restaurants close or do takeout only because of the coronavirus pandemic.
With no on-site customers, that means no on-site players, and that revenue stream pretty much overnight went to zero.
Matt Shelby of the Oregon Lottery figures the state is losing roughly $20 million a week on video lottery, which is far and away the lottery's most attractive and lucrative type of game. It's a big deal not only for gamblers, but the entire state. The lottery is the state's second largest source of revenue behind personal income taxes. These lottery dollars are gold for politicians in Salem, as long as they're divvied up as voters asked. This pie graph shows the breakdown. About half of all lottery dollars go to schools, a quarter to job creation. The rest is shared among other interests like Oregon parks.
It plays a significant role in keeping state parks open and in providing funding for ongoing improvements and expansion.
Chris Havel of Oregon Parks and Recreation said his agency relies on the lottery for nearly half its funding. So when the lottery dollars dry up, which really hasn't happened before, state parks suffer.
Things like trail improvements, parking lots, restrooms, campground upgrades, those sorts of things all have to be reevaluated to see what the priorities are.
Like the rest of the economy, forecasters aren't sure what's next. But the lottery is warning lawmakers they've been dealt a bad hand.
We're anticipating a drop in lottery transfers anywhere between 20 and 40%. And in real dollars, that's anywhere between about $250 million to $500 million less that the legislature would have to budget in the next cycle.
The Oregon lottery has seen slowdowns before, including the recession, but never a complete shutdown of its biggest winner, video lottery.
Okay, Kyla Boshi joining us now. Kyle, you mentioned the video lottery games, but the lottery has a bunch of different types of games. Are they not making money off of those as well?
Right, those other games are available. Mega Bucks, the Scratch It tickets, those are all available at retailers, but sales are obviously down. The key thing to remember is the video gaming, the video lottery, that is really the cash cow for the state lottery, pulls in about 70% of the revenue.
That's interesting. I didn't realize it was that big of a chunk of that revenue. So that makes me think about the restaurants and the bar owners, the people who have those in their establishments. That's just another thing I imagine they're being hit by right now.
Yeah, those local restaurant and bar owners, small businesses, I mean, they are taking a hit. A lot of them rely on the commission they get from the lottery and sales. The lottery is also concerned about their well-being long-term, because if those places don't come back, that really is where a lot of those gaming machines sit and people use those machines. So long-term, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
You got it. All right, Kyla Boshi, thank you.
Look, let's file this next story under the people doing awful things category. Right now, a lot of people are getting their groceries delivered with services like Instacart, right? Maybe you're one of them out there. It's been a very popular thing. Well, CNN talked to a bunch of Instacart workers who say that they're getting this kind of bait and switch situation happening right now with tips. One of the people who they talked to is a woman from the Portland area. Her name is Annalisa Ambula, and she relies on this income from Instacart because her husband right now is unemployed. So here's the story. Here's what happened. Someone ordered groceries. They said that they tip her $55. Huge huge tip. That's great. So she got the grocery. She did the delivery. All good. But later, she checked the app and her tip had changed to 0. CNN says that people are offering these big tips so the drivers will be more interested in picking up and delivering their orders because it's kind of competitive right now. It's tough to get these deliveries on a decent time frame. But Instacart lets you change the tip amount for 3 days after you get your delivery. So it's totally legal under their policy. And a lot of Instacart workers say that they rely on these tips like waiters do. Now, we're not telling people that they need to leave big tips or anything like that. Everyone is struggling in their own way right now. But don't dangle money in front of people and then take it away once you get what you want. That's just cruel, especially now. All right, I want to check in now on crime. Most crime has been down since the stay-at-home order has been in place, but gun violence in Portland is ticking back up. In fact, someone just got shot in Southeast Portland this afternoon. Now, Portland usually averages about 1 shooting a day, but between March 31st and yesterday, the 9th, there were 17. All over Portland's east side. What's interesting to me here is that this uptick in gun violence is going the opposite way of other crime trends. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office told us late last month that crime rates were down in like every single category. So what's up with Portland's high number of shootings? A PPB spokesperson says that, well, frankly, they don't know, but they're trying to figure it out. They're looking into it. So far this year, as of yesterday, there have been 136 incidents of gun violence in Portland. So we actually first started covering this issue back in February, before this pandemic hit, when PPB said that reports of shootings were almost double what they've seen in 2019. We asked Portland Police in March for some other crime statistics, too. They're still working on getting us those for April. So far right now we only have the shootings and speeding citations, which you might recall are also way up. We're going to let you know when we get those other numbers. So we're obviously living in a really weird time right now. Here is a great example of that. An indie movie filmed right here in Oregon became the #1 movie in America last weekend. Here's the kicker. They only made a little more than $4,000 to get them in that top spot. For some perspective, last year, Avengers Endgame made $350 million in their first weekend. Now, the movie we're talking about is called Phoenix, Oregon, named after the little town right outside of Medford. It was filmed there and in Klamath Falls, and it's about these two guys. They quit their jobs and they restore an old bowling alley. So how did this movie get to the top of the box office? Excellent timing is one way, I think, to kind of say it. Also, savvy distribution. They made some right moves here. All movie theaters are closed right now. In the big movie theaters, the big movie studios, rather, they pushed back all of their release dates. But the Phoenix filmmakers, they decided to go ahead with their release, but they did it in a unique way. For $6.50, you can watch it at home, online. I chatted with the director, Gary Lundgren, about suddenly becoming a top-grossing filmmaker.
Yeah, now you have this strange little feather in your cap. Were you the
right.
top-grossing movie in America?
Yeah, it'll be a trivia question someday, I'm sure, because it's going on 3 weeks, and we're gaining momentum. Like this week is better than the first week, so we'll just keep riding it as long as we can.
There are some, I guess, some tones in this movie that kind of fit a little bit of what we're dealing with right now. Would you say?
I think so. I think you know, it feels almost like the tone and the spirit of the movie is sort of connecting with people now, because everyone's had to step back and reevaluate their careers, how they're spending the next few weeks. I think a lot of transitions are going to happen, and it's a movie about transitions. It's about these characters who don't like where they're at in life.
And here's another little way that they're standing out. It's a really cool thing that they're doing. They're sharing the wealth with independent movie theaters who, like a lot of small businesses, are really suffering right now. So if you buy a ticket, they will donate half of the proceeds. And you can actually choose which small theater you want your money to go to. Again, the movie is called Phoenix, Oregon, just like the town.
Okay, we know we are guilty of focusing mostly on Portland and not other parts of the state. So we wanted to know tonight, how is this pandemic affecting and impacting the more rural parts of Oregon? And could cutting down trees lead to more disease? Huh? Yeah, I know it seems unrelated, but some researchers think otherwise. When the story continues.
Hi, my my name's Claire, and I'm a senior at Central Catholic. Going to Central was my best decision, so I really miss seeing my friends and teachers every day, and it's definitely a weird way to be finishing senior year. But we've been finding a lot of ways to stay in contact with each other, like FaceTime or Zoom calls with our class, and I'm also finding a lot of time to hang out with my family, like going on runs with my sister, or reading, or catching up on movies we all wanted to see, and hanging out with our cat. So even though we're all not together, there's definitely a lot of ways that we're still having that community feel.
Hey, welcome back. So since this whole situation, this whole screwy thing started, we've been telling you about the big outbreaks in big cities. First, it was the Seattle area, right? Then we started seeing cases popping up in Portland. Of course, we all know what has been going on in New York City and everything they've been dealing with there. And of these big cities, that's also where we've been seeing most of the testing happen too, not rural areas. But now, fast COVID-19 tests will soon be available in 3 rural Oregon counties. I talked to Pat Doris about it earlier today.
Okay, Pat, let's focus on testing and this new technology that's now kind of popped up in the southern part of the state.
Right. Well, there's a company called Abbott Corporation that makes this super fast testing machine that a lot of medical centers have had for quite a while because they use it to test for flu and strep, that sort of thing. But then recently they developed a test that they could run in that machine for COVID-19. So they're being sent out around the country now, and Oregon just got 15, and the governor said 3 are going to go to rural counties, including Curry County and a couple of the others. So it's, I think, very promising for those counties as soon as they get enough test kits to be able to test their people.
And this already exists, this technology already exists in some bigger cities, Portland, for instance.
Right. So there's Legacy Go Health Urgent Care in Portland. Already had these machines, for example, because they used it for the flu. But they were able to get a bunch of these test kits in from the lab as well, the solution that you need to be able to run the test. And so since about April 1st in Portland, they've been running about 270 tests a day.
What do we know about the accuracy of the rapid tests, of these types of tests?
Well, not a lot. And by the way, let's just cover that real quick, how fast it is. It takes 5 minutes to get a positive, they say, and 13 minutes to get a negative. You know, most of the testing right now takes 2 or 3 days or longer. So that is really a very huge improvement. Obviously, the president called it a game changer a couple of weeks ago. As far as the accuracy, it's not been reviewed and approved by the FDA. It has been given a conditional use because of the emergency by the FDA, so it's totally legal. And the company says that it's accurate. I think it just has to be used more to really be able to see exactly how accurate it is.
So it has kind of emergency clearance right now. What does it say? What do you think this means as we start to see this technology that exists in bigger cities starting to pop up in some more rural communities? What this will do to the concern about overall testing here in Oregon?
Well, I think it's going to help a great deal once they get these test kits in. You know, having the machine is one thing, but then you got to have the solution to actually run it. And that's where the pinch point still is. But if this becomes widely available, it's going to be a lot easier to start unwinding all the restrictions because it'll be much faster, much easier to find out if people are positive or negative. And if there's new flare-ups, it'll be a lot easier to track where it's going and then contain it and stamp it out as well. So I think it's very promising.
Yeah, let us know about those test kits, okay? Appreciate it, Pat.
So we get a lot of different types of questions here on the story, hundreds of them using the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter, or just sending us a good old-fashioned email like this one we got last night. Paul actually seemed a little bit angry, or at least annoyed. He said, please go back to reporting news. All of these personal interest stories are not informative at all. Yes, we're all in this together, but let's report on more facts and less feel-good fluff. He then wrote a list of questions and signed it, a concerned viewer looking for news. Now, I could argue a few of your statements there, but what fun is that? I'm a people pleaser. So let's give Paul his news. After all, he did have some good questions, so I'm going to read them all one by one and try to answer them. All right, question number 1. What is Oregon doing to plan on getting us back to work and life? Well, Paul and everybody else, right now we're still kind of in the thick of things, as you know, but Governor Kate Brown did give us an idea of when stuff could open back up. She says she wants to see a period of 10 days to 2 weeks with no coronavirus deaths before that will happen, and most experts think that's probably still a few months away. Next question, why isn't Oregon testing people? Well, you know by now that we are testing people, but we we have been a little behind other states. Now, when this first started, we barely had any tests, and we were only testing the sickest of the sick. Now, the state says that there are more options at this point for testing with private labs, but even now, not everyone who wants a test can get one. You still need to have symptoms that are getting worse. I mean, like hospital worse, or be in the high-risk category. All right, Paul, let's keep it going. More. How big of a hole in state and local budgets is being created? Well, we can tell you that Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler told us that the city is facing a $100 million shortfall, which is huge. As for the state, as of last week, the rough cost estimate for Oregon's direct response to this pandemic is almost $4 million. But that's just the direct response. We haven't seen any big picture estimates from the state yet. All right, what else we got? Paul also wants to know, where are Oregon's leaders hiding? So they're not hiding. Of course, you've seen Governor Brown. She's on TV all the time. Mayor Ted Wheeler's on TV all the time. But if you're talking about our legislators, yeah, we haven't really seen much of them, but that's because they don't really have much of anything to do right now about coronavirus until the governor calls a special session, which she hasn't. She says that she's going to, but she hasn't said when yet. And she told us the only real explanation she gave us is she says she wants to see if there are any gaps in what we can do now with the federal help before calling lawmakers back to Salem. And last up, he wants to know what's being done to deal with the homeless. So just today, we learned the city of Portland is opening 3 temporary outdoor emergency shelters next week. And they're trying to make a safer and healthier place for people to sleep to protect them from this virus. Each shelter will have 45 tents. 2 of them will be in the central east side, and 1 will be in Old Town Chinatown. All right, how is that, Paul? Are we good? If not, as you know, we're just an email away, or on social media. Use the hashtag #HeyDan. Meantime, let's take a dip into the KGW vault. And today, we have some uniquely KGW history. It turns out that our parking lot used to be a whole lot cooler, thanks to Rob Stoltz, who emailed us this suggestion in. The Hobart Curtis Hotel was a residential hotel built on Southwest 14th and Jefferson in the late 1800s. Catholic nuns took it over in 1919 and renamed it Jeanne d'Arc. That's Joan of Arc in French for all you English speakers out there. This photo from the Oregonian archives shows it in all of its former glory. And here it is, a little slightly more modern times, the photo from the University of Oregon archives. You can actually see I-405 under construction there in the foreground and our KGW studios in the background. Our building went up in 1964 and the Jeanne d'Arc didn't come down until 1977, which means this was our neighbor for 13 years. And no offense to our parking lot, but this was way better. If you've got an idea for the KGW vault, let us know with the hashtag #HeyDan.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt Safino, and today we are talking about the relationship between deforestation and infectious diseases. Because you may have heard the COVID virus was suspected to have originated in a bat that transmitted it to an animal that looks like an anteater and then to humans like that. So what about this? And are we to cause for these transmissions of infectious diseases? Now, the picture I'm showing you right now was taken by the International Space Station over Bolivia a few years back, and it shows deforestation. At the center of each one of those pinwheels is a village or a farm, and they cleared the land away for farming purposes. Now, researchers have found that in Central and Western Africa, Ebola was worse in deforested areas because of the breeding of mosquitoes and other pathogens there. Same thing in Brazil with malaria. When they clear the land, it creates puddles along sides of the roads. That's where the malaria mosquitoes like to breed, and they have seen increases in malaria there after some really very effective efforts by the Brazilian government to decrease malaria. It's seen a bit of a resurgence. And then in Indonesia, they cleared an area about the size of Pennsylvania, if you can believe that, for farming. Now, what happened there is the fruit bats that lived in the forest no longer had food, so they migrated north. And soon they found that the fruit they were eating was being eaten by pigs that picked it up from the ground, transmitted a disease called Nipah to humans, and that is a severe brain inflammation disease, Nipah virus. You've heard of that. So what's the deal with this? Deforestation puts us basically in contact with more animals and more pathogens than we otherwise wouldn't be. And you may be thinking, well, it's always in the tropics. Well, mostly in the tropics, and that's because they just have a greater diversity of wildlife and pathogens, and they're doing a lot of clearing there, and then humans come in contact into that. But it has happened in North America. Think about Lyme disease in the northeastern United States, in part due to the fact because we have been clearing the forest there. There are more deer, more people in contact with them. So again, there is a link there. And the real message is that if we preserve the environment, we may be protecting our health as well. Hey, want to touch on this real quick too. Today we launched my new podcast called Under the Big Umbrella with Matt Safino, and we'll show you a graphic of that if we can get it up there for you. And again, you can find this wherever podcasts are found, and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's Under the Big Umbrella because we will cover a wide range of topics, weather and climate change, of course, but also other things like climbing and Northwest Adventure and Portland and all around the Northwest. So, Dan, hope you check out my podcast. Back to you.
How many episodes? There's a couple episodes up right now, right, for the launch?
We've got 5 up so far, yeah, and I'll be adding about 1 a week or so. Or, whenever I come across a great topic that I think people will be interested in, I'll podcast it and we'll put it up there.
Matt, thank you so much. I've already met a couple of people who say they're binge listening to Matt's podcast. So hop on there, listen to him. He's like one of the most interesting people I've ever met. So appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having my mind running circles around that deforestation thing. So meanwhile, we've been running these really adorable KGW spots during commercials with this girl named Nora. Maybe you have seen them. Here's one.
I love my grandparents, but it's not a good idea to hug them right now. Look at the corona going around. Some things you can do. You can call them, you can FaceTime them. They don't know how to FaceTime. And you can tell them that you love them. You can paint them a picture, but whatever you do, don't hug your grandma right now.
All right. I cannot tell you how many emails we've gotten, just like this one right here. Donna Barnes writing in saying, hey, Dan, the new KGW TV commercials with Nora's perspective on COVID-19 and social distancing are genius. She is fun to watch. She has some interesting things to share. I was hoping you might be able to tell us more about her, like how old she is she related to anybody at KGW? All right, so I can tell you Nora is 5. We met her through our marketing department. Our commercial producer, Joseph, found her, and he's going to kill me because this is the only pic I could find of him, and it's from his Facebook page in like 2009. Sorry, dude. Well, Joseph does a lot of work with Meals on Wheels, and someone there showed him a clip of Nora saying it was a friend's daughter from Boonville, Indiana on Facebook. Here's the clip that they showed to Joseph.
So my parents told me about this coronavirus thing going around. I'm still not 100% sure what that is, but I don't like it. And the worst thing is that Universal and Disney are closed because of social distancing, whatever that is.
The quotes, social distancing. So I got a hold of them today. I called her mom, and she said that it kind of all started with these really cute videos that were just for friends and family. How many times have you heard this story? Just for friends and family, and then everybody kind of started sharing them, and they took off. If you're wondering how they make the videos, mom kind of prompts Nora with a topic, asks her a couple questions, and then she just starts talking. I asked Nora about how she feels being a celebrity here in Portland, but she really didn't feel all that impressed for some reason. She says she hopes to land on the Ellen Show. We're a launching pad for her. Or she wants to make it onto the Kids Baking Championship, where she would prepare a chocolate and peanut butter cake with strawberries on top. I think she's on her way. All right, we are going to finish the story next and finish the week when we come back. We are going to end this week with another look at our, new reality, you could call it. Portland's usually crowded streets are empty. The businesses are locked up. The city's a lot quieter than we're used to, but that's a good thing. It means everyone's doing what we're supposed to do and staying inside. So please keep doing that as we head into this weekend.